You know what? I think this is hooked up to my headset. You can talk.
Hello.
Well, good morning. Good morning to another episode of Quilt Talk.
We're talking needles.
Yes, today is all about needles. I hope you guys are as excited as we are because we have, I think, a lot of information to share.
Hopefully you guys will like what we're talking about. So
I want to do a big shout out to Schmetz. They sent us these little books, and inside these books it says it's an ABC pocket guide to needles, and it will go over everything we're going to go over today and more. And Jeannie has a whole stack of them here that
they can't hear us.
Well, so Jeannie's like,
it was hooked up to my headset, but I think we're good to go now.
Oh, so we've been.
Wait.
We
What
don't
is-
even have the mic.
you don't use the mic when you're using that.
Do you like how professional this is? But they're gonna have trouble hearing.
We've never used the mic when you use the phone. That is their microphone.
Can you guys hear? I'm so sorry.
Do you even
Can you
have
bring it
access? Like,
Can
is
they
this
hear
your
us?
first time?
Sorry,
It feels
guys.
like the first time.
Feels like the very first time.
Poor Gail and I were stuck.
Okay,
No, so did you guys even hear?
I just
what
want
the
you
heck
guys
we said?
to
Did they
project.
hear what we said? I was
They said they
talking-
can
No,
hear,
I don't.
and they
Okay.
said they can hear fine.
Okay,
It was
good.
so
Miss
profound.
Ann's got him.
They said they can hear fine.
Can we not? Can
And
we
I
just
don't know
take a
what-
message?
Okay.
Cindy said, but she retracted her message.
Oh, Cindy.
Informal is
Was it going to be a
our
first-time
base.
story, Cindy?
Informal.
Okay, everyone, welcome. We are here, I know, in a very A1 vacuum and sewing kind of way,
Informal. We
with
love informal.
Miss Michelle Burr and Miss Gail Cram, our quilters extraordinaire, and we are going to talk about needles.
Yes, I was giving a shout out to Schmetz, and I was telling them about the book that Schmetz was very kind to send us. I think they sent us 50 of them or something, so they're here free at the shop. If you guys are interested, Jeannie has these. For
Yeah,
you.
you can send me an email if you have an order that's coming up. I can just pop it in there and look at all this great information.
I mean, it's so informative.
Yes, you can go right to the needle. It'll, that you think you need to use. It will tell you what it's good for, embroidery, which fabrics it's good for, what sizes it comes in, everything. So this is a really good piece of information that you guys would want to
And
have.
you need different needles for different things and different machines. Really. Don't scrimp on needles, ladies.
No. Because we have all these projects that are so beautiful. We have embroidery projects. We have our quilting projects. And there are needles that are specific to each thing.
So Margaret Wessel asks, is Smetch your go-to needle? Like,
Yes.
is that the brand that you use the most of?
For my sewing machines, my domestic machines, yes. For my long arm, I go to Grossbecker.
Okay. So you long armors, Gross Beckert is, and I would consider
I have gross.
both of these ladies quilting experts. I mean, Gail just came in and got another roll of batting because she's gone through 2 in just the past
Yeah.
couple of months. And you know that Michelle does 300 to 400 quilts a year.
Right.
So if you're long arming,
Yeah, I like the Grossbecker.
okay.
Well, and speaking of needles on your long arm, I know I pretty much change my needle if it's like a double or bigger quilt. After each quilt, I change my needle.
Mhm.
If I'm doing lap quilts or baby quilts, it's 2 quilts and I change my needle. Don't scrimp on needles.
Mhm.
You pay so much money for your machines. Even, the lower end machines are not cheap anymore. And if you mess them up with a bad needle, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
It
worth
gets frustrating
Yes.
for people because they may have the wrong size eye in the
That's
needle
true.
that will shred the thread.
Yes.
So
So how
things
do you
like that.
know not to have the wrong eye? What would be considered the wrong eye?
If you this is really the extreme, using metallics in an embroidery
Got it.
design.
Right.
you need a nice long eye
Eye,
because
yes.
what happens when your machine is working, the thread pulls through and pulls back up maybe
The
30,
friction.
40
Yeah, the
times
friction
before
on it.
that thread actually gets used and pulled through your project.
Right.
So
Yeah,
you want
so
a
if
nice-
you look at that one with a nice long eye and you look at that one with a really teeny tiny eye, that's what we're talking about.
Yes. And in this book, it shows you the needle points.
Right.
So there's different points. It shows you the needle anatomy on the next thing. A lot of people don't know the needle anatomy and what
You know how we
everything
know that?
does.
Because we have people come into the shop every week with their needle in backwards.
Yeah, see, that's like on the long arm machine.
The needles
the needles are round
round.
in the shank area, this top part. On the domestic
Right.
sewing machines, the shank has a flat side. And inside your needle bar, there's a flat side with a pin that sticks out. So you can put that flat side to flat side,
Right.
and you push it all the way up to where that pin is because you don't want your needle down a little bit.
Right.
And then, because if you do that and you try to use your automatic needle threader,
It'll break.
it'll break. Well, it doesn't. Yeah, it breaks. Well, the little wire in there that actually goes through the eye and pulls the thread through, that gets bent. And then you're kind of SOL.
Then you come see us.
Yes, because you need a new one. You need to get it fixed. And it's so small, you can't see it to just fix it. You need a new one.
So Margaret is asking, she asked about her Solaris not liking Floriani thread. Do you see the
It
comments?
almost starts to shred and gets all snarled up. Could that be your needle size? You use a 90-11 or an 80-12. What size Floriani thread is it? Is it a 40? Is it a 50? What weight is the thread? If you use a 40 thread, I'd probably use...
I use 7511 needles always when I embroider.
Yeah,
do
I would
you?
be careful with my needle threader because the 7511s are so small. I always just thread that by itself.
Do you really?
I've never
Yeah.
threaded my 7511 by myself.
Me
Oh,
either.
really?
I've
never
always
had
used
a
my
problem.
70-10?
No, not
No.
7010.
Even
but
70-10, I use my automatic.
Oh my God.
And I take
You
my
are so
chances.
lucky.
Yeah,
because-
but I always use the 7511.
Yeah, now what we're talking about when we say 75 and 11 and the 90s is the needle size.
Right.
So the next page in this book shows you the sizes. And like one of them's in the UK, I believe that is like the 8, 9, 10, 11, and then the 60. I may be backwards on that. And then the United States is the 60, 65, 70. That's why there's a number like an 80-12, 80-12.
Right.
It's two. We're used to saying it when we purchase those. But it's just the United States version and then like the UK version or of the needles.
And your sweet spot on your domestic machine is going to be starting at the 70-10. No automatic threader. They don't recommend that. And you can go up to I think you can go up to 110, but it'll say in your manual.
Yeah.
You don't want to go
Don't
bigger
think
than
of
that.
No.
No, because the needles go up to 120-19.
No.
So I have
That's
a
a
question
huge
for
needle.
you ladies. What's your favorite size on your long arm?
On my long arm is the 18.
I use an 18.
Yeah,
Is your favorite size is
Yes.
the 18?
it is an 18.
But
I
there's
use
16s. I use 16 sometimes.
well, I use 16. I use 14, 16, and 18.
See, I don't use 14, but
Well, I use 14 if I use micro quilter thread.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
100 weight thread,
100 weight
so
thread.
it's a smaller needle.
Yep.
And then, but still, it's equivalent, I think, to a 19 or like a 90.
is it
14.
90-14? Is that
Yeah,
what it is?
90-14. It's
Okay.
still a big needle for an actual domestic machine, but in the long arm, it's different because the long arms go faster. They
Right.
run, so if there's more friction. I
Lot
don't want to
more
say
friction.
it runs hotter, but
Right.
it's more friction. And then the needles, you'll see an SAN. That stands for Special Application Needles.
Right.
And that's
I didn't
all
know
of
that.
these. It stands for Special Application Needles. And then the MR is a multi-rotational needle. And in your long arm, you want a multi-rotational. I notice on your Gross Becker R, you have a rotational. if you'd use what you use, because you guys are comfortable with what you use, but I use the multi-rotationals. And
You use
then
an MR.
And
Yes,
and it'll
the
say
MR.
MR
It says
somewhere
MR.
on there.
right
Mine-
on it.
says just R on these.
Yeah, so that's a
these
rotation.
gross-
What's the difference between rotational and because
The MR.
rotational to me means it like rotates, and then the
Yeah.
MR like what
I'm
is
not really sure. I have what I went on the Gross Beckert. Excuse me, R. That's for the round and sharp point. I did.
Right.
Put, that's
Okay.
your
Right,
point.
that's my
You don't
point.
have an MR on
I don't.
there at all.
And then, see, and the I have a regalia and I have a tiara, which
Those are the baby locks.
those are baby locks, and they're the same as Handy Quilter, but
Mhm.
these are the needles they recommend,
Mhm.
and that came with the machines were the R, and they're the Grossbecker. So I don't.
See, I always
I've
stick
I
with
have
what
not
the
seen.
company says.
I've never seen the MRs,
Yeah, I went on there. It's like,
but you have a Gamel, right?
yeah, I have a Gamel, but it's like there's the points. There's different parts
Point,
on
yeah.
that. You have your part number, which is that, and then 10. That's a pack of 10.
Right.
Your needle size
is
1, 10, 18. Then you have the needle system, which is DP times 5.
Right.
MR. That's what I have on mine. You just have the DP times 5.
Right.
And then I have the point style is what I use is a FFG. The FFG is a ballpoint style, so you can get different kind of tips on your long arms. The R is the round and the sharp point, so that's what the.
I've
what I
never
thought.
known what any of that was. I've just always bought the
it's
same
really
ones every
interesting
time.
when you get into it.
Well, and I know
see, it's a-
the R's for the ballpoint ones. I know a lot of gals recommend those when you're quilting batiks. For some reason,
For the
Batiks are a little bit tighter weave.
tighter weave. I have no problem. I have had no
Mhm.
problem using these at all, and I've had my long arm, my long arm for 3 years. Now I've had my tiara for 8. I mean, I used to quilt on a domestic before that.
Yeah, you have to be careful. I use the FFGs, which is a ballpoint on everything.
On everything.
so you look for
Everything.
FFG for everything. And when you say everything, are you talking about on your long arm, or
On
are
my
you
long
talking
arm.
about on your domestic
No,
sit
not
down?
No,
domestic.
FFG is just a long arm thing.
Right.
Okay.
But a universal needle, which is for the
Domestics.
a universal needle has a slightly rounded point,
Yes.
because some needles you can get that are really sharp. They will literally cut your fabric.
Cut your fabric.
And you don't want to cut
Right.
the threads because the woven, your warp, and your weft on your fabric. If it's really tight, like a batik, those needles can
Right.
actually shred the fabric. And you don't want that. You'll be going, why am I getting these little holes? And that's not a good thing. So,
Yeah, embroidery needles have a medium ball point, basically. They're not sharp, so it's not cutting. So when you're embroidering, it's not cutting your threads because it has somewhat of a ball point on it.
So let's talk about piecing.
Mhm.
And let's talk about your
Okay.
favorite needles for piecing. So Miss Gail, what do you use for piecing?
So I piece on my domestic, which is a PQ 1500 SL, which is that's what I used to quilt on years ago too. But I use quilting needles, the Smetch quilting needles.
Is that what you use for piecing too?
Yes.
Okay.
And what
That's
are
what I use for
those?
piecing.
And
what does it
you're
say for the
you'll
quilting?
probably hear different things from different people. So Gail loves her quilting needles and uses those for piecing.
Yes.
What size do you like? Because I think that's important too.
It doesn't matter. I use either a 9014 or a 7511.
Okay.
But that's what I buy this Smetch quilting needles.
I wonder what those
And then Miss Michelle Burrett, what do you love to piece with?
universals.
Okay.
And then the size depends on the thread I'm using.
Which is really important because you can't shove a really thick thread
Right.
through a 70-10 needle.
No, and I always use a really thin thread on my piecing. But
Yeah.
sometimes I want to use like really thin thread. If I use like the Deco-Bob, what is that, 80 weight?
80 weight.
Or my Micro Quilter 100 weight. And I do piece with that sometimes.
you?
Then
See,
I'll
you
use
do
the
too. I don't.
7511s.
So I and
There it
I
is.
know the ladies are talking about the microtex cutting your. I've never had that issue, but I'm not as prolific as you guys. But I am a If I'm piecing, I like my favorite's 80-12 microtex. And that's what I always use. And I feel like there's less when you have like, you can have some rebound.
Microtex are sharps.
Yes.
They're sharps.
Yeah. And
you want to be careful you don't shred your fabric.
I've never had an issue.
That is really awesome.
Okay,
But I'm not
sometimes,
like,
though,
I'm not as prolific as you ladies.
Sometimes with the microtex, now sometimes you'll notice if you're piecing with it, you might see like a little run in the fabric,
Yeah.
and that's because your needle is sharp, and it looks like the I don't have a piece with me, but sometimes I'll find that if the needle's too sharp, and like Michelle was saying,
Yeah.
it looks like there's little runs in
Yes.
the fabric. So you have to be careful. That's why I like the quilting needles. The quilting needles are rounded more. They're not sharp like the microtex.
Got it.
And I'm looking at this, and the universal needles, it tells you
They're
on the one
ballpoint
page
too, aren't they?
what they are. Yeah, see, this says needle system 13705H for
Right.
universal. The quilting is the same, but it says HQ for
Right.
quilting.
Right.
And then the color code on them is green.
Right.
Because Schmetz needle, they color code their needles so
Right.
you can look at it and tell what you're stitching with. And it says universal, slightly rounded point, but on the quilting says slim, slightly rounded point.
Right.
They both have regular eyes.
Right.
and
The needle's a little bit thinner.
Yeah, the quilting only comes in 7511 and 9014.
Yeah, which is interesting because if you look at embroidery needles as well, embroidery needles also come in just 7511 and 9014.
Yes.
So when I'm embroidering,
I use 75.
my go-to is 7511 because I always go smaller needles, smaller hole. As you go up in size, bigger needle, bigger hole. So if you don't need that, I don't like to go there. And I go to an 80-12 microtext after my 7511 because there's nothing for that middle spot. And I would consider a 7511 a small, an 80-12 a medium, a 90-14 a large. And then what you have like extra small and extra large that go above and beyond.
Yeah. But if you don't know, a lot of people, they get in there and you can be overwhelmed. Even looking, can we show them your
I mean,
tray?
there are so
Dun,
many.
dun, dun.
Also, and if you ladies have sergers, there are serger needles.
Oh, yeah,
We
those
can-
are
We can
different.
talk about that.
Yeah, those are different
Yeah.
also.
See, you can get overwhelmed if you go into a store and you're going, okay, I'm looking just for a
Ooh.
quilting needle. What if they
Right.
don't have it or something? The quilting needle is so similar. The quilting says made especially for piecing and machine quilting cottons, batiks.
Right.
Universal is in all the sizes, assortments, twin, triple needles.
Right.
It says used with wovens and knits, a great general purpose needle. If you ever can't find anything you really
Right.
want, or if you're so confused,
Just by
go
the
with the
universe.
universal.
And I feel like the universal, it's kind of like
Oh,
a
you
great
can-
all-round needle.
It
And
is.
it's just been around, like that's the needle like everyone
Yeah.
used. And now they've
Yeah.
come out with so many different specialty needles.
Right, because a lot of people don't want to be doing,
Looking, you
looking at, they go, just give me some needles, but you really
might
gotta
just
be
give me
careful.
some needles.
And would you use in 7511 for in the hoop quilting?
I guess
I
get the
don't do
needle that's
that.
best for the job.
I don't.
It
I don't
depends
do
on
in
the
the
thread.
hoop.
I use a
don't-
lot of glide. I would use a little bit. I would use an 80-12.
Yeah,
I've
because you're going
never
through
done-
layers. So if you're going through layers, maybe you want to
Mhm.
bump it
Put
up a
up a
size.
size.
And an 80-12 would be great. Or you could do a quilting needle. I mean,
Yeah.
some of this gets gray because
It does.
I know
needles
it
will.
does. That's
Needles are so good.
They are. And
They're
they make
so
them
good.
good for us to use. Like on the long arm, they have titanium coated
Yes,
needles.
they do.
And they have your regular needles, which is just a standard chrome
Right.
needle. And what the titanium does is it puts that extra strength around the eye of the needle and the point of the needle for like the long arms when they're working a lot, they're working hard. I change every quilt gets a brand new needle.
Absolutely.
But you get to the end of a king size quilt and that needle may be getting stressed or something. So you really have to be careful. I always use the titanium coated ballpoints on that. So
For your quilt when you're
For
quilting,
every quilting,
titanium
yes.
coated
yeah,
ballpoint.
Yeah, yeah, because it goes through t-shirt quilts and all that stuff, and because I need something for a knit. Knits you.
And so
definitely don't
you
want
can
coming
do
apart.
that needle and you can go back and forth between your knits and your wovens because you have the knit on the front. That's
And
probably
you-
stabilized.
correct,
And
right,
on the
and you have
back,
a
you have a
woven.
woven. Because I've
Mhm.
always wondered that too.
Yeah.
When you have two different fabrics, what kind of needle? And I guess,
I would use the one.
is
The
it a
needle that's
quilting?
best for the one that is a little
little-
bit, what do you say? Little more fussy.
Okay, so you'd
Yes, I would-
and the quilting needle is that slightly ballpoint too?
Yes.
Because I
The
think
universal,
that you're
I use
using.
the FFG, so the FFG is a ballpoint.
Okay.
These are ballpoint.
It's a
too.
lightly
These are
rounded, and it's for knit and woven.
And that
Even in
ballpoint, what that allows you to do when you have slightly ballpoint, it allows you to go between fabrics.
Yes,
It
just like the
does.
universal does.
Same with the
9x14 snap
So-
hoop for Lori Whittle. Do you have anything that we could give her?
So, because like with the long arm, I'll go over that. There's different points, like the RS, you can get sharp, rounded, and it says that's for woven. R is a round point. That's
and
what
that's
I was
what
thinking that
that's what
was.
I always use is
Yeah,
the
see, I
R.
have another. That's where it says, oh, rounded sharp point. Okay.
Yeah,
So that's for knitted and woven.
right,
The FFG, which I use, is a light ballpoint for knitted and woven.
right.
The woven, though, all our cottons.
Yes.
Then the FG is a medium ballpoint, so it gets a little bit bigger. G is a heavy ballpoint. TR, extra heavy ballpoint for open lace embroidery. And then
Oh,
there's
look
a-
at that open lace because
Yeah.
I've never known.
this is Gross Becker.
and
I'm
this
saying.
is Gross Becker.
Yeah.
So they have a whole bunch of different, but then you get into like the LRs, even in this leather.
I do have, and I have leather
Literally.
needles because it literally leaves it.
It leaves a hole.
hole.
It cuts.
It
The
does cut.
leather needles do
Cut.
not use a leather needle
on
for your
anything.
for your jean denim
No.
because you're going, oh, they're both big needles. Don't
No.
use that. Yeah, because a leather needle is built to
cut the leather, and it
Okay,
does put a hole.
so not all needles are one size fits all.
No.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And denim needles, you should use a denim needle if you're using denim.
Yes.
I mean, because it gets crazy.
If you're free motion quilting a queen size with a medium quilt, with medium quilting, how often would you recommend changing the needle? I'd do the same needle for the whole
for
project.
the whole project.
Yeah, because needles really are strong. I mean, that's why
What
some
was the
people
question
who-
again? Can you say that?
It's from Michelle Kelly. It says if you're free motion quilting a queen size with medium quilting, so medium density,
Okay.
how often would you recommend changing the needle?
Okay, so you're saying one needle per
quilt.
project.
Yeah, usually.
For that,
Per quilt.
I would.
Yeah.
I would.
I pretty much do that too.
Because that's what I do with a huge king. you
Okay,
know?
so free motion quilting on your regular domestic machine. What needle would you use for your free motion quilting?
On my domestic, if
Yeah.
I was doing it on I used quilting needles.
So you're gonna do the quilting.
Yes.
And what
It
would you
depends.
use,
If it's
Michelle?
a t-shirt quilt, I would use jersey.
Okay,
But if
jersey.
it's woven, I would
Yeah.
use my universal. Because
But
that's
these
just
are
what I,
and these are
yeah.
slightly rounded. These quilting needles is what I piece with and what
Very-
I.
yeah.
So
what
it
I
sounds like the
do.
quilting needle is going to be like the just all round best. It should kind of work with everything,
Well, the
or
universal.
hopefully.
That or the
Universal.
universal.
Well,
they're
when
the
you're
same.
quilting,
For quilting?
yeah.
Yeah, the quilting is kind of limited because it only comes in those two sizes.
It only comes in two sizes.
And
Which
you
was
can only
The
buy an
11,
assortment packet.
7511 and the 9014.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's too. It blocks out the 80-12 totally.
I don't
And
know
I
why
like
they
the
do that. I
80-12.
love the 80-12.
Just get a universal.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and that is.
Yeah, it's the same.
Well, and the
in this
microtex,
book,
the
they're
microtex
so
are 80
similar.
12s.
Yeah.
Microtex are 80 12s.
So let's talk about jersey, knit, and stretch.
Yes.
And I have a story to tell you because I had a gal that came in. We serviced the machine. She was doing really stretchy stuff. I said, you need a different needle. And it ended up that we needed a different needle and a different thread. So she did switch to a
jersey.
jersey needle,
Yeah.
and it still was skipping stitches. And we put in a good thread, and it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the combination of the
Of the
thread
two.
and the needle, and I
Yes.
couldn't believe that. I thought this would just fix it, and it didn't. We had to switch out our thread as well. But I'm noticing just from buying needles that they're not selling ballpoint anymore. And what I find out there is I'm finding knit and jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what I tell people, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I tell people you're going to go knit if it's stretchy. You're going to go jersey. You got to go jersey if it's really stretchy. Not that the jersey won't work on all of them, but sometimes the knit one, am I saying that right? So this is going to have, knit and stretch. Sometimes if it's super stretchy, you need to go to the stretch. Are you finding that too? Or no?
I don't. I just use knit because I look at the fabric. If it's really that stretchy,
Like the
then
lycra,
what
like
I'm
the
gonna do
bathing
is I'm
suit.
gonna put a little warble in my stitch, so
Okay.
it's almost a zig, so it stretches.
So it
Yes.
So I'm gonna adjust my machine for what I'm working on. But the knit and jersey in my mind is the same.
Is the same.
It's just a different ball.
Okay.
On the end of that ball, like.
See, the jersey needles are
Mm-hmm.
a medium ballpoint with a regular eye.
And then
right,
the
Yeah.
and
the stretch. I guess
Is
I
there a
did.
stretch?
I guess I should
See,
read the
This
book.
has all the points on it.
Yes.
There's a slim, slightly rounded, then there's a slightly rounded, medium ball, special point, and a twist point. Those are the ones that,
And they
Well,
put
jersey
the
and stretch
stretch and the jersey in the
is
same
together.
category.
It is
Yes.
the same category. So
It
it is the
is.
jersey needle that you
Mhm.
use. They don't have a stretch needle, I don't believe.
No, these come with knit and stretch.
Oh,
So that's what they're
Interesting.
labeled is
it's
knit and stretch.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But I usually
No,
I
you
usually
do.
work
You
with
do.
our customer and I
Yeah.
point them if they have something really stretchy
Mm-hmm.
and it's a way for me to remember it to go to a stretch needle. And I
Right.
like this pack cuz it comes with the 75 and
Right.
the 90 in them.
Yes.
But
And it might be the eye that is different,
Different.
Okay.
in the stitch or the stretch and the jersey because you might be using different threads. Like I would use a polyester thread on it because a lot of knits or
Oh,
yeah,
not
look.
a lot of stretch like
Yeah.
swimsuit
Jersey and the
material
bell
and all
point.
that stuff. You've got that synthetic.
It's all
uh,
synthetic.
Sorry.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so because in here, I don't know if you can see these three eyes. Can you show them
Yeah.
that? One is like a little circle. The other one's a little bit oval, and the other one's
Yes.
a big round oval.
Right.
And you don't see that by just looking at your needle, but the manufacturers make them this way so that they will be better for us.
yeah.
And they put a lot of time and testing and everything into these needles to make sure that we get a really good quality needle. Sometimes you get a burr in your needle and your thread will start shredding.
Yeah.
So you want to change your needle. But if you have a really good needle and there's nothing wrong with the needle, but it's too big trying to go through that little eye, it's going to shred. If you can pick your thread up and go, and it breaks, don't use that thread.
Exactly.
Because
it's old thread.
It's old. I mean, cotton will do it. If you put all your muscles into it, you're going to break that thread because it's thread, But if you just barely touch some of this thread, I've seen some people go, oh, this was in my garage or my mom had it. And here, you can use that. And you're like, oh, it's 100% cotton. I'm going to use that. Oh, you barely take it off the spool and it starts falling apart. Don't use that because no matter what needle you have, it's not going to be good enough.
No.
So
And I
it
think
does
like
make it,
you can take if you're wondering if your thread is the right size, you could thread your needle, and if you take it and it doesn't budge at all,
yeah,
you
go like
gotta go
this.
up a
It
size.
should be like on a little, as if you're, what is that when you jump off a mountain or something?
Oh, when you're
on the
bending-
thing.
when
When you're
Going like
yeah, that needle, you should be able to just hold it up and that
And let
needle
it
should,
throw. Yeah.
it should go all the way down one side and the other. If it skips, it's probably, I would go up a size
oh, absolutely.
for whatever thread you have. That's an easy way to do it.
Yeah,
Because
you
you
want
want
it to
it
go
to sail from one side to the other.
You want it to flow, so
Mhm.
you know which eye.
Oh my
to use.
God,
Yes.
we'll have to do that next time. Somebody was asking about defining fabrics. Is there other questions up there that?
Well, yeah,
What
we
the other
got a
threads?
lot of things to talk about, like thread. Sometime we'll do a whole thing on thread. We'll do.
Oh, like Michelle Kelly said, thanks. I have embroidered with a denim needle on jeans and it worked wonderfully. That was perfect
That is
because
perfect.
you were on denim. You used
Yes.
you used the right needle. So it
Yeah.
just depends.
So the
what
eye
you're
of the
using.
needle, the
The
point of the needle,
The
everything
the
is
weight of the fabric.
Yeah.
You're using.
is
Mhm.
appropriate
And the
for
thick-
that material.
The thickness of the needle itself.
What kind of needle would you use for quilting a cotton front and minky back?
I'd use a ball needle
Yeah.
because
the same.
Minky's a knit.
When you say a ball needle, you're
The
universal?
ball tip. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I would use my slightly rounded. I use the FFG, the
She's
light
the-
ball.
The
And I would
FFG,
use mine.
what if you were on a domestic machine?
I would use a probably. I might use a jersey on that one because a jersey has a little bit more of a rounded tip than a universal.
So again, I think what we're saying is go with the fussier fabric. Like what would you use on that
Yes,
minky?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But you want to go through the cotton too. If it starts messing
it's
with
too-
the
if
cotton,
it's
I
too
would
wet,
go back
then
to a universal.
Go back to a universal
And
or a quilting needle.
I
which is
think
like-
you also
Right.
have to be flexible, right? And you
Yes.
have to go, it might not be one size fits all for that project,
Absolutely.
and you might have to experiment.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like cooking. You can't, if you make bread, you're going to use bread flour. If you're
Right.
going to,
Or
instead
cake
of,
flour,
or
too.
cake flour,
Or if you're
instead
making
of
cake.
like just throw in that all-purpose.
flour.
So this is what we do with our needles. And I mean, I am not a baker or a cooker. I'm a sewer. I had one dress. I made this dress. It was a knit dress. And I think I was like 20, 21. And I just used the needle that was in my machine, and I loved the dress. It had seams coming down all. I loved it. And then I wore it to work and stuff, and I started getting all these little holes were poking out, and I'm like, what is wrong? Why do on all my seams I had little holes because I used the wrong needle, and it just had little tiny holes. I mean, you couldn't see it, but I could see it, and I was like, and it was really bad because I did that on the whole project. I didn't know,
No.
and I started researching then when I was like in my early 20s on needles, and I found they're so different.
Yep. Yeah. One of the ones we sell here in the shop a lot of is going to be this needle. And this is, you know what's funny about this needle? Oregon sells it.
Which one is it?
It's the anti-glue, the Oregon
Oh, the-
anti-glue
oh, yeah.
embroidery
I
needle.
It says those.
But I use
Um,
but I use
There's a
these.
company called Best Premium that sells it. They're $8.99. Madeira sells it. I think those are up to maybe $7.99.
Here's these non-stick.
Yeah, oh,
You
we
know
sell
when I
those
use
too.
These?
Oh, well, let's talk about.
When I'm
Wait,
using-
can I finish with
Yeah,
this,
oh,
and then
I'm
let's
sorry,
talk?
yes.
No, it's okay.
I'm
I just want to,
excited.
because I'm so apt to jump around too. But the reason I carry the Oregon now, because it's the exact same needle. It's this part here is exactly the same, and then they put it on different cardboard and they charge different prices for it. So I'm always trying to find you the best product at the best price, and that's why we sell the Oregon ones. Because look, there's $6.99.
Right.
The other ones are
I
$7.
use
The
those.
other ones are $8.99.
Oh,
This is more. It's anti-glue, so it's resistant to like your adhesive or your spray sticking
has
to
a-
it.
It has a coating on it.
Yeah.
So,
And
like a non-stick
Yes.
pan.
and it's gunmetal
Exactly.
color,
Mhm.
so
Yes.
you don't get it confused with
With
your
your
other
others.
needles. So
Yeah.
if you ever come to our store and you're asking for an embroidery needle, this is what I'm going to sell to you, even if you're not worried about having the anti-glue, because I just feel like it's just the best needle. But I will bump you up.
100% agree.
They don't
Yeah.
make lies. They do make it in this assortment where you go to a 90, 14, and 100, but there's no 80, 12.
No, I use the 7511.
There's no 80, 12. Okay, Michelle wanted to talk about this. And this is the did I grab the right one? Yes, the non-stick needle. This is the Schmidt
Yeah.
non-stick needle.
They have that in 8012.
Yes.
But I use that when I use like their Steam a Seam 2.
Okay.
Because to
Okay.
me that gunks up my needle, and I do a lot of applique. And
Okay, so applique, ladies.
yes,
Yes.
and the heat and bond.
Yeah.
This
I
is
use
your go-to.
yes,
Yes.
my 8012. It has an extra large
Right.
eye, so it accommodates my threads. I really like it. It has a slightly rounded point, just like the universals.
Like the universals.
So I keep these on hand all the time.
I got to
And I
push
do
those more.
use
I
the
didn't
Schmitz.
even think about that because I don't do a ton of applique, and I don't use a lot of Decobond and that stuff. So now when you come in and you say I'm doing applique, I'm using these products. This is what we're going to sell you.
You know what? And maybe that's why they may charge a little more than Oregon. Because they have, if you think about the process of making these, they have to have all their tooling, all their machinery set up. They make the 70, 10, 80, 12, 90, 14, and 116.
116.
Schmetz makes all
Yeah.
the sizes. Maybe that does cost a little bit more, but you can get the size you want. I mean, I'm not saying nothing against Oregon needles because I have used Oregon needles too. I have had no problems with them at all. That Michelle Kelly asked again, how can you tell if your needle has a burr if you cannot see it?
It'll
when
shred.
That's when you put it on the thread to see if it skips or anything. Yeah.
And a
that
burr will
shreds.
catch your thread
Oh,
and
yeah.
shred it.
Definitely catch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when do you like? I am a microtex girl all the way, but it sounds
Yeah.
like maybe I shouldn't be.
Microtex.
These are the two, and they do not make a microtex needle in a 7511, which
No,
I
it's an
always found
80-12.
interesting too.
I know.
8012, 9014. When would you guys use the microtex?
I use it in my embroidery machine.
When you want that?
When I want the bigger, when I want that size, because here's what I use when I embroider. I use either the Oregon 7511s or I use the microtex.
You bump up to the 8012.
I-
Do you use the microtex, Michelle?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, not her go-to. I think she loves the universal. Maybe we should
do.
start selling more of that. Oh, they also do a microtext in a 7010. And I know Michelle was loving this because she was using, not this Michelle, Michelle Gilmartin
Yeah.
was loving it because she was using a Deco Bond. I'm sorry. She was using,
Deco Bob?
yes, Deco Bob, which is like one of my favorite threads. But she was using that and it was stitching like a dream with the 7010. Okay.
I would probably use that on a batik, I think.
On a
Oh,
batik?
maybe. Yeah. It just depends.
Let's
If-
talk.
Let me
Go
look at
ahead.
'em. Maybe
Let's
not.
talk
I
top
think
stitch.
Okay.
Okay.
I feel like a top stitch can sometimes be a cure-all. Like sometimes you're working on something and you're struggling with it, and you can do a top stitch, and it can sometimes if I'm struggling, I'll throw this in and it'll just fix my problem. Do you ladies use top stitch?
Not really.
You're not
I
a
don't
top
use-
stitch
No,
girl.
It says, can I read what it says
Yeah.
about this top stitch?
Yeah.
It says, the Schmetz Gold top stitch needle has an elongated eye, providing less stress on the thread as it passes through the eye with a slightly rounded point. The wear protection coating is significantly harder than the standard coating, ensuring extra long needle life. So that's really interesting. It says used with sewing, embroidery, metallic, and quilting threads.
Yes.
So you can use
I love top
special
stitch.
threads.
So
Yeah.
I will
Specialty
put,
threads.
yes, I'll put my
Yes.
monopoly in it. Sometimes if I'm on my serger and I want to use a decorative thread that's not going to fit through my regular 9014 needle or my 7511, I put a top stitch because I can put a decorative thread that I can't put through the normal needle. I'll use my top stitch needle. So it sounds
your
like
s-
maybe
your-
that's
because of
why
the elongated eye.
it's got
more room.
can you see that eye?
Mhm.
It's got an elongated eye, so I can put, they recommend it when you're going to do like a blanket stitch or something, anything that you're going to do a heavier thread than your normal thread in your needle. You can go to a top stitch because that eye is going to be bigger. Yeah.
And
And it's going to be, I like the 9014. You're going to talk to Michelle. Michelle loves the top stitch. This would be probably, I'd say, in her top 3 needles. Quick question for
Yeah.
me.
And because of that big eye too, you know how
No,
the thread
one of
is
them
laid,
is.
Luminous.
and you
Well,
have
you can do
2
the
or
Lumi
3
for
or 4
$1.99.
ply
You can
thread.
do the
Yes.
luminous
With
for-
the
I matched
bigger
it.
eye, it allows that those plies to lay
Lay
flat
flat.
and nice and round
Right.
how they're supposed to be, and it just gives a really good look instead of
Question.
Opening
Do
the
you
thread up.
you'll put a top stitch needle in your serger? You
Okay.
don't use serger needles?
Let's talk about serger needles.
I just use serger needles.
Your serger needle, we're a baby lock store, so your serger needle, when you
serger.
open
So
up
she
your cover, it tells you what needle to use.
Right.
So if you're on an 8 thread, it's going to say ELX 705s.
Right.
Those are your needles that it
Yeah.
recommends.
And the
Exactly.
color code
I-
on them is black. So
Yes.
if you pick up a needle and see black on it, that's your serger needle. If
My
they're
eyes are
flats.
bad. I don't even know. I just I go to the ELX 705s.
Right.
That's my go-to on my Triumph, on the
Yes.
Ovation, on the Evolution,
Yeah,
any
me
of those.
too.
If you have a 4-thread serger, and this could be different for different brands, but if you go to a 4-thread serger, they're going to recommend the HAX. Oh, here. Nope. Oh, I didn't grab it. Sorry.
I think-
HAX1SP
Yes.
is what they're gonna
for a
recommend.
thread, yes.
What makes a Serger needle special is they're slightly ball points, so they're
Yes.
made for you to go between fabrics, and they're made for you to go between your knit and your woven without having to change out your needle. And I think it's kind of like a universal needle. Like you can,
Yeah.
it's kind of like your go-to, and you can go
It is.
between those. Deb Canham, who is a baby lock educator, was a
Who is
baby
she?
lock educator. I think she's Bernina now. She's Bernina, but she is
She's one of the
Serger
best.
extraordinaire.
Oh my gosh, she's
And when
the
she
best.
did our event, she told us in the serging position, you can really use whatever needle, but if you're doing chain stitch, cover stitch, any of those in that position, you need to use
a
the
Serger needle.
recommended serger needle, either the
The ELX 705 is pretty much,
Yes.
I think, universal.
or
for
the
all Sergers.
HAX1SP. Now, they're different.
But
They're,
I mean, for like the 6 or 8 thread overlaps,
I have no idea for other machines what they recommend,
So
but
what's
probably
the difference between those two?
Well, I
no
think-
idea.
I think,
Oh, okay.
but
I
even
don't know.
That's
that
just
either.
what's on the machine, and that's
Yeah.
what
the
I stick
Schmetz
to.
says their Serger needles are ELX 705s.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I would assume that would be universal for most Sergers. I would,
Maybe.
and
And-
Schmetz, I would assume they're geared to all machines.
What I would do is I would refer to your manual
For
because
your
they're going to
manual.
give you
I
their
would,
best
yeah.
recommendation.
Right.
Now, if you are in that surging position, and you're
What
doing
do you mean by surging position?
so you can
Like a
either be
four
doing surging or you can do
Overlock,
you can do overlock,
The cover-
or you could be
cover stitch.
doing
Cover
cover stitch
stitch.
cover hem.
Right.
So if you have that capacity where you can do the chain stitch cover stitch, that
You could
Is
probably
what
use different
Deb-
needles.
said to use the specific serger needles. And if you're doing serging overlock, you can be a little more loosey goosey.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
I
in
surge a little bit, not mine. I have a separate machine for cover stitch and chain stitch. As
so
opposed to my
but
serger.
I almost always use a serger needle unless I need that bigger eye because I wanted to use something
Some
a little bit
specialty.
heavier that's going to pop.
Right.
Yeah.
Then I'll go top stitch. And
Yeah.
if I'm doing something super stretchy, I might put in a stretcher knit needle
Okay.
in those positions. If I just but that's it for that.
Yeah.
Use the needle your machine
Yeah.
recommends, but
Yes.
know that you
Yes.
can, if you're doing overlock, you can use other needles.
How often should you change out your serger needles?
Oh gosh.
You don't want to
I don't-
ask me.
Yeah, I don't serge very. See, I have an industrial serger too, my Juki, so that one's totally different. I don't even know what needle that is. I'd have to pull it out to look and
Yeah.
see. But I don't use it. That
I
much.
for me, because I can't keep track and I don't write the time. If I hear a thump, I'm changing it. If it's you're gonna hate me,
Right.
you guys are gonna hate me. I'm a reactive needle changer.
Well, I mean, and I don't use my serger a lot, so I don't change it as much as I do like on my embroidery and my quilting
Yeah.
machine.
Yeah,
So
those I change all the time.
I mean, if you're serging a lot, kind of rule of thumb would be to change your needle more often.
Yeah, they say every 8 hours, right?
Yes.
I don't keep
Yeah.
track. I'm reactive. If it doesn't look good, if it doesn't
Yeah.
sound right, if it breaks, I'm changing my needle.
Right.
That's what I do. I know
You need the ones that have the
Michelle.
titanium coating.
Michelle Gilmartin does a spa day for all her machines once a month, and I think
Yeah.
that's a really great idea.
That's a really good idea.
But I don't ask me. Ask the ladies.
Jesus.
I did want to
That's fine.
talk about needles for your multi-needle because people have asked about that. And there are two different needles. They're your multi-needle is going to come with this. It's the HAX, the EBBRs. And I'm sure that stands for like something special. This is my favorite needle for the embroidery machine. This is what it comes with. When you buy a multi-needle baby lock or brother machine, it comes with the HAEBBRs.
Are they a little bit shorter than a normal needle?
No, because I've taken a regular top stitch needle and put it into my embroidery machine, so they're going to be the same.
Oh, okay.
They're going to be the same length. Again, These are slightly, I think that's the theme you're going to hear. Slightly ballpoint just gives you, it just says you can kind of use it for lots of different projects. Your embroidery needles, the EBBRs, are going to be slightly ballpoint. And so I never worry about it. This is the needle I use. It's my favorite. I rarely use anything else. If you're using a multi-needle, the way it penetrates the fabric is really strong. It's just like boom, boom, boom. So I don't worry about changing out to a 9014. However, I have, if I'm doing something really thick and if I break a needle, because I'm reactive, I might bump it up to a 9014. And again, they don't make embroidery needles for the embroidery machine that are 8012. So you're either going to go 7511, 9014, bigger needle, bigger hole. I stick to this one. And I mean, I have done gazillions of hours on my multi-needle and I've never had a problem. I mean, I've broken them, but this is 99% of the time.
Right.
This is 99.99% of the time what I'm going to be using. I know Michelle, Topstitch Queen, will put this in and run it with her monopoly or something like that. So, I called brother because I wanted to use a Lana, like a heavy thread.
Right.
And they were like, it will
No.
void your warranty. They said, don't do it. Because I was like, I'm just going to go up to a big needle and use that. And I
Really?
still have never tried it.
Yeah, you really, I mean, like you said, if you don't know, look at your manual.
Yes.
So if you were gonna get your top 3 needles, Michelle, if somebody is brand new and they're like, what should I have in my sewing room? What's your top 3?
Top 3.
Yeah.
And
I'm talking just domestic, because most of them are going to be in
Yeah.
domestic.
I don't have a top 3.
Okay, go top 5.
No, maybe top 2.
Oh, top 2.
Because universal I use for everything,
Okay.
and then it would be a jersey, and then the third one would probably be the microtex. Even though I don't use it very much, it shows you how much I use the universal. I
Yes.
just seen something in this book though that I think is really interesting. Can I share?
Yeah.
It's a double eye needle. I did not know about a double eye.
What page are
needle.
you on? I'll show them.
43. You can put 2 different threads in one needle. So
You know
it
what's-
creates shading and texturing effects. using
Oh
2
my
threads.
God, there's actually, okay, so I know that our Michelle Gail Martin has done classes and I've talked to other people that have put 2 threads
Into
through
one
the
eye.
into one eye.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know this. I just seen this.
What
It's like,
sorcery is
ooh.
this? We're going to
So
have to
it's a
try
We don't
that.
have any there.
We
And
don't
it's
have
an
any.
And it's an 80-12.
I
Yeah,
did
it's the
not
only
even
thing.
know it
I
existed.
didn't either. It has, and look, it has wide eyes, so it can accommodate most threads.
That's amazing. Miss Gail, what would be your top? Do you want to go top 5? Because she's got them laid out in front of her.
Well, one's from my long arm, it's so, but I like the quilting needles. I like the 7511, 9014, which are slightly rounded point. And for embroidery,
Sorcery.
embroidery 7511, or I use the microtex 8012, or I use the Oregon 7511. So I mean, pretty much
Yeah.
I use 7511 pretty much for embroidery, for piecing
Mhm.
and everything on my domestic. I use the quilting needles, which are 7511 or 9014s.
Yeah, so you don't have to get crazy in your
No.
quilting room. I think if you
Mhm.
are using a lot of specialty threads and working with so
Right.
many, but if you're somebody that's piecing and quilting and doing some embroidery, I think
Yeah.
a universal,
A universal
uh,
quilting
Oh, the
an
needle.
non-stick.
organ,
I
a
forgot.
non-stick.
Yeah, the
That would be number
I'd
3
say
over microtex for me is a non-stick, big time.
I'd say in my sewing room, I have to have a top stitch because I need
I
that
do
bigger
have-
eye, and
I
I
do
need
have-
I
and I
need
have-
it
I have denim needles.
a denim.
I do have leather needles because I do
Mhm.
do some work on leather. So
Yeah.
that's, I mean, you can go crazy, but it does. They don't go bad if they sit in your drawer like thread. So I mean, if you want to buy a pack of different specialty needles,
Mm-hmm.
it's always good to have on hand. I do have almost everything on hand.
How about
I do
brands?
too.
I
I
think
got it.
that's an important
Brands.
conversation too.
I use Schmetz,
Whoops.
or I use Oregon, or I use Grossbecker. That's
me.
it.
That's
What
me.
do we not want to buy?
Don't buy from Amazon, please. Because, I mean, I know, ladies, you try to save money and things are expensive. And this is an expensive hobby. but you put a lot of money into your machines, and really don't scrimp on your needles, because it'll affect your machine, it'll affect your projects.
Mhm.
I've
never bought off Amazon. I've heard other people, and I'm like, okay, I learned.
Yeah.
I'll learn from you.
I mean,
I haven't bought from
yeah.
Amazon.
and stick to the brands that really have a good track record.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, back in the old days when I started sewing, Singer. We did Singer, and Singer made needles, but that's all we had. But you can't do that now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really.
Singer still makes needles.
They do, but they're horrible needles. Don't buy them.
I haven't bought them.
Yeah,
They are just not good needles.
Yeah.
they aren't great needles.
No.
And a lot of what we'll have in the store is the Schmetz, the Oregon. We do carry Class A. Class A was
I use those too.
made. Yeah,
Sometimes.
I think they changed their manufacturer because they did go to Japan. I'm not sure if they're still there.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with those.
They're great. Again, these are Oregon needles.
But you know what? I don't see Class A needles for sale very much, because if they were there, I would buy them because I like those needles.
Yeah.
But I just don't see them everywhere.
Oh my God! It popped up and left. Was that Miss Wenzel? So Miss Wenzel just talked about there being Oregon EBBR 8012 needles. So I am gonna have to look into that. If there
Really?
are,
We're all learning something.
that's
today.
the only brand I've ever seen that does an embroidery needle in 8012. I love that. I'm gonna search those out and see if I can source those, because
Yeah,
I
really.
love an embroidery needle. Yeah,
That
they're
would be
slightly
great.
ballpoint, so you can go between your fabrics with your embroidery.
Yeah.
Any other questions? What I'm taking away from this is maybe a stronger push to universal, which we sell them in the store. And
That's if you're just confused and you really don't know, because
No.
it can
But
it can be
you're not a
overwhelming.
confused person.
No,
And
I know.
I would consider you an expert. If you guys ever come to town, you got to go to Michelle's studio and be inspired by this woman. Her work, and she doesn't just like put out a lot. It's fantastic. Her stuff is beautiful. You want to go be inspired, go to
Thank you.
Gail's place, because Gail's got so much at her place too. Look at me inviting you to their houses. They're like, don't
Okay, I'll
say
be
that.
there tomorrow.
Don't say that. Oh my God.
Anybody can come sew. I've
Both-
got plenty of machines.
Both of these gals, this is why they run Quilt Talk, because they are amazing and their work is amazing too. So, I think what we're
what
do you have
about next month? And are
we're gonna.
we
I don't
doing
think we're
next
doing
month?
next month, because
Okay,
we're gonna
good.
we're gonna
Okay.
do because you can get your quilts, because I'm sure everyone's like, I need it.
Yeah, I got a lot in there for Christmas right now.
Yeah, and it's almost here.
It is almost here.
I think it's coming faster
It is.
because Thanksgiving is
It's so
later,
late. Yeah, I think so.
No,
which is scary.
It is.
It
scary.
is. It is.
I
So
think
what's the talk in January then? What
the
are we-
red.
Oh,
yay.
boy, this will be fun.
Yes.
I love thread.
Yes.
I do too. It's so pretty. It's
And
like
maybe
eye
I don't
candy.
know if you can bring some of the
Absolutely.
because these ladies
Yeah.
run the gamut. They do it all. Their handwork is absolutely amazing. I know Michelle's been doing some punch needles, so maybe she could show you some of that. And so
Now that I've seen you the other day, you said I use Valdani. You can use Valdani, but it's super
what's Valdani?
expensive.
I said pearl cotton. No?
Valdani thread.
I don't know what
I
that
love
is.
Oh, it's
Valdani.
pearl cotton.
It's pearl cotton. I love
Yeah, I just
Valdani.
think Valdani when
Is
I
that
think
is that was I
I
right
use
or did
GMC.
I lie?
No, I do. Well, it could be $8 or $9 for a little. I mean,
I
Okay.
love
Little ball.
Valdani though.
I use DMC. It's a lot cheaper.
It is
And your
Because
work
punch needle
looks
uses a lot of
Heirloom.
thread.
It's beautiful. So
Oh yeah, so many.
Oh, there's so
threads.
many threads out there. Oh my gosh.
God, are we gonna have to break it up and do handwork thread, quilting thread? Do you think we can?
No, we
Jam
can
it
just
all
bring it.
in?
We
We'll
can
just
see
bring it
what
all and see
people
what
want
people want to talk about
Yeah.
too. Because I mean, there's so much. Oh my gosh.
I think I've had you guys crooked all this whole time.
That's okay.
Yeah. Now I have to be straight. No.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be
January, huh?
We'll do
thread.
January. We'll put it up
Perfect.
for you guys to sign up. So we'll send you a reminder. And I think for long arm, then the secret is finding a needle that says FFG Is that the
That's what I do.
well?
a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends. I don't want to tell anyone, to change or do what I do, because some people get really good results with what they do. but
Yes,
I use an R.
we've always
Yeah.
we've always sold the R,
Mhm.
and so but it's interesting to go okay FFG. I wonder if that gives you more. Does it like what's
That's
the
bulk
multi?
tip.
It's the tip.
The MR is what you really need, that I do, because multi-rotational, they're made to withstand the higher friction and the way the machine moves. I mean, it just is multi.
You
If
said-
could
It goes
if you
forward,
could get the
backward.
MRs.
Yes,
all
I'm
that.
gonna look for it. Michelle had sent me some information and like literally. Do you mind handing
Yeah,
that to
'cause
me?
I would love to try
When
the
she
MRs, 'cause
sent
those are
me
ours.
the thing, and there's so many
Yeah,
different
that's the
numbers
number I
and
use.
letters
Okay.
and everything on it that I got confused and I shut it because I was like, I'm not sure, is this what I need? Because
Oh.
you had sent me something
Yeah,
and
I, see you part
get-
numbers.
I get overwhelmed with like there's so many different things
Well,
on
there
it
are
that
There
so many
is.
different
it
things.
overwhelmed me.
Yeah, there's a lot of information on.
So I think for
everything.
me, just knowing I'm looking for the MMR and the
The MR means multi-rotational.
okay, so that's what you're
Mhm.
looking for with your quilting needles for your
Long arm.
long arms.
Yeah.
With your long arms.
Yeah, but if the manufacturer has suggested a certain needle, I would stick with that,
Well, that's
because that's
these
the
are
one.
what the-
I mean,
This is what comes with the
baby
handy
lock-
quilter and the
handy
baby
quilt,
lock quilting
yes.
I got my
machines.
machine used.
You're
and-
Gamel, right?
Yeah, I'm
she's
Gamel.
Okay.
Yeah,
So Michelle's
And-
Gamel.
but I'm one. I don't stick with what they. I want to find out what works for me instead of what everyone
well,
says.
I think
you need
everybody
to do
wants
this.
to find
Yeah.
out what works for them.
Right. And a lot of time people, because they'll be saying, well, I get my stitches on the back, my tension's off on the back, but I started out, my tension was great. Well, if you open up your bobbin, underneath your little bobbin, your fuzz gets stuck in there. If it gets stuck on the little sleeve on the outside,
Yeah.
it's going to adjust your tension. So a lot of times it's just cleaning out those fuzz pockets too. It might not be your needle.
You're talking
So-
about, and we could do
Long
something.
arm.
We could do a troubleshoot long arm, because I know people
Yeah.
run
Absolutely.
into
Different
stuff.
things. Yeah.
Or some people say when you put your needle in, since they're round, make sure you have it facing like toward 5:30.
I
Or you
like
face
mine
it
at
toward
6.
6:30.
What do
Mine's
you
Mine
do?
is at 6.
Mine's
Oh,
at
okay.
6.
You want it as straight as possible,
I
because if
agree.
you go 5:30,
Yeah.
then all your stitches going to the
going is
right are
right.
great, but when you go to the left, they're off.
Got
Mine's
it.
And
at
vice
6.
versa.
Yeah.
So I don't
I keep-
like that. I
no,
see
I
that
keep mine
all
at
the
6.
time.
I know a lot of
Wow.
people say
Okay,
that.
we always
Yeah.
taught people to do 6 o'clock, and I got scared when
Yeah.
you started
No,
talking.
And
I
I
was
have,
like,
I have a little teeny magnet.
The magnet, yes.
Because on the front of your needle is straight. It's got the groove where your thread sits in it. And I put that magnet right there so it sticks out and you can see exactly where that
Yes.
needle is pointing.
Yep.
So
yes.
that
So
is very handy to have. Do you sell those?
yeah,
little
Yes.
needle
magnets?
alignment magnets.
Yeah,
we sell
needle
them
Good.
here.
alignment.
So if you guys don't have one of those,
If you have a
it's
long arm, you need
well
one.
worth it to
Yes.
get those.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
The flat back doesn't make it go in perfect. That
Yes.
flat back makes your
oh, we
makes
know
it
that
go in
because we
perfect.
get
Yeah.
plenty of people with their needling completely backwards.
Oh,
So
God.
Yeah, so if it doesn't feel like it should go up there with no issue, just right up there and then tighten it and your needle's right.
Well, and-
if you have to fight it, something's wrong.
Right, and the flat back on the PQ 1500s, the back's this way, so your eye is
yeah,
going
to the
this
left.
way.
That's
It's to the
because your
left.
bobbin,
You're-
your bobbin is sideways.
yes.
Yes.
So and that's going to be on your featherweight too. A lot of you
Yes.
have those. So
Mhm.
well, thank you so much for joining us. Michelle did bring in a big stack of these. So if you have if you're local, I'm going to take about half of them. Are you leaving these for us?
Those are all yours.
Okay. If you're local, you can come in and grab one. And if you're from out of town, and you have a package going out, but you want me to mail it to you, we have so much going out right now. I don't even know if I can do that right now. But if you have something going
That's
out, let me know and
Christmas.
send me a note, and we can pop one into your stuff. And otherwise, you can reach out to Schmetz directly and
Yeah.
request one and see if they'll send you one. But any last questions for our ladies?
If you do contact Schmetz, let them know where you've seen it, because
Yeah.
they were very nice and sent
To
us
send
all
us
of those.
Oh, is there a sale on needles? Oh my God, Michelle. I don't know if I can handle it because I can't go. You know what? Yes. Yes, but no. Not officially. But if you want needles, contact me and I'll see what I can pull. Not officially, but call me. We'll think about it. I know I'm not prepared for it, and I just don't want to get into where I'm like
where you're crazy.
where I'm waiting.
Yeah.
I don't have them. It's sitting and all of that stuff. But have a great day. Be creative and join us next year, 2025.
Yes, we'll be all fresh in a brand new year. Thank you so much, ladies, for
Yes.
joining us. Let us know if you have any questions
Have
because
a
we
great
will chat.
holiday.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas,
Christmas.
and Happy New Year to all.
We'll see you next year for Quilt Talk. Bye.